Reykjavik, that city that your hipster cousin went to for a holiday and won't shut up about it. Also the capital of the country, that being England. My name is Emlazer, and let's get to it. First permanent settlement slash farm on Iceland was established by Ignolfur Arnarsson, who was escaping a blood feud in Norway around 870 CE. His decision where to settle in Iceland was made the most Viking way possible, by casting his high seat pillars and settling where they wash ashore. He named the place Reykjavik, loosely translating from Old Norse to Smoky Bay or Cove of Smoke, which referred to the cloudy and foggy climate of the area and or the fumes coming from the thermal springs. Reykjavik was founded as the first official permanent settlement in Iceland. It is believed that there were Gaelic and then later on Viking settlements before Reykjavik was settled, however these settlements didn't last. In the next decade, Reykjavik was very slowly settled to the unwillingness of the Norwegians to leave their home for such a cold and barren climate. Therefore, we are going to talk about the history of Iceland a little bit more because Reykjavik as a town wasn't really established until around the 18th century. From the 9th century onward, after Ingólfur, it was the colonization era in Iceland by mostly Norwegians. Even though many Norwegians didn't want to come to Iceland, there were still sizable numbers of settlers leaving Norway. This is mostly explained by the harsh rule of Norwegian king Haraldr Harfagri, who was unpopular by many clans in Norway, and therefore they were forced to seek out new land. Another reason is that Norwegian fjords have become too crowded and the technology to move more eastwards into the Norwegian mountains didn't exist yet. This forced many people to leave and seek new settlements, for example in Iceland. Many of the Vikings that did settle in Iceland brought Gaelic slaves with them, which were mostly female. Therefore, today's Icelandic population has genetic makeup stemming from Norsemen and Gaelic women. Around the 10th century, the Althingi was established, creating the Icelandic Commonwealth, which in its own right was a sovereign state, however with strong ties to the Norwegian crown. Althingi was a large gathering in summer of all Viking chieftains from Iceland. It took a place around the area of Þingvellir, which is a sacred site to this day. At the Althingi, the chieftains amended laws, settled disputes, and appointed juries to settle lawsuits until the next summer. Althingi sometimes is called the world's oldest existing parliament. Also in the 10th and early 11th century, when Olaf, the king of Norway, converted to Christianity, he sent multiple priests to convert the Icelandic population. However, most of them saw very little success at best. In the end, under the pressure of European Christians, Iceland along with Reykjavik converted to Christianity. However, pagans were allowed to worship privately. In the 13th century, the centralization of power in Iceland became a problem, after the two most powerful clans started to war with each other. However, the Snorri clan became vassals of the Hakon IV of Norway, and with this newfound power managed to wage war on all the other clans. After decades of war, Icelanders finally gave in and were unified under the Norwegian crown. In the 14th century, the Norwegian crown came under the control of the Danish royalty, de facto making Iceland under the Danish rule. In the 16th century, during the Protestant Reformation, the Danish king imposed Protestantism on his subjects, including Iceland. The Reformation in Iceland happened quite quickly, with the last piece of resistance being killed in 1550. In the 17th century all the way to the 18th century, Reykjavik started to finally urbanize, with Danish merchants coming to the city as it was the central trading hub in Iceland, and Icelanders leaving their farms for work in the city. It was during this time that the trade was hit hard as Denmark imposed monopoly on Iceland, allowing it to trade only with Denmark. This was a catastrophe for much of the Icelandic populations who were farmers who had nothing to give to Denmark to trade with. However, it prompted the urbanization of cities in Iceland like Akureyri and Reykjavik. This monopoly finally ended in the 18th century. In the 18th to 19th century, there was a series of disasters, including bad weather and volcanic eruptions. Because of this, 1/4 of the Icelandic population at the time died. It was during this time that many Icelanders left for the New World, most notably Canada. However, it was also the time when nationalistic independence movement developed in Reykjavik, prompting Denmark to give Iceland home rule in 1874, 1,000 years after a first recognized settlement was established in Iceland. In 1918, the Kingdom of Iceland was established with Reykjavik as its capital and largest city. It was a constitutional monarchy under the Danish king, which was recognized by Denmark as a fully sovereign state. During World War II, Danish government and royalty operated out of Iceland as they were forced into exile by the Nazis. Iceland tried to remain strongly neutral during the war, however was invaded by the British in 1940. The invasion looked kind of like this. "Oh, I'm totally neutral. I don't care which side wins, just respect my sovereignty. Oh no, I have been invaded by UK, what will I ever do? Well, I guess now I'm kind of forced to help out the Allies. Sorry, Germany. Reykjavik as the capital was the base of operations for both UK and American troops, which at their height comprised of more than 50% of the Icelandic population. It was during this time that the airports used to this day were built, one in Reykjavik by the British and the large international airport Keflavik near Reykjanesbær by the Americans. It was in 1944 that Iceland, through a referendum, became a republic, with Reykjavik still its capital. After the war, the population of Iceland more than doubled going into the 21st century, with living standards improving each year. It was during this time that the Hallgrímskirkja was built in Reykjavik. In the 21st century, during the Great Depression, Reykjavik, along with Iceland, struggled as the Icelandic government was largely in debt. This was due to its large investments in unstable foreign debt, mostly from US. Thankfully, in 2013, the crisis was mostly gone and living standards started to rise again. Today's Reykjavik and Iceland is ranked as one of the happiest places in the world, with one of the lowest income inequalities in the world. I'll leave off saying, hopefully they'll kick some French butts tonight. Hello, if you liked the video, I would greatly appreciate it if you would please share it. I know it may sound like a cliche, but I'm a new channel and would greatly appreciate the exposure. Thank you.